Your first sober weekend might sound daunting, but I've been there and I've got the playbook to not only make it doable, but actually enjoyable. My first sober weekend felt like uncharted territory, and that's because it was. Ever since I can remember, since high school, the majority of my weekends, 90% of my weekends, were filled with booze. Partying, drinking way too much, and suffering the consequences Sunday, Monday, and beyond. So, what do? First, you're going to want to create a clear intention. Besides staying away from alcohol, what do you want out of your weekend? Do you want relaxation? Do you want adventure? Maybe a little combination of both? Do you want connection? Do you want to reconnect with yourself? Do you want to reconnect with your lover? Do you want to reconnect with a family member, a friend? Set a clear intention. This is important because if you don't set a goal, it's easy to slip into old habits. If you just go in winging it, like I did so many times, you're setting yourself up for failure. So it's important to set a clear intention and to have a plan of what you're going to do. Plan out your weekend. You're going to want to fill up your schedule to help fill the void of not drinking, of not having alcohol, those activities that you associated with drinking. But be careful, don't fall into the trap of over-planning and overdoing it. It's easy to get burnt out of all these activities. So, spend some time the week before, the days before, prior to your weekend, and, I recommend writing it out, or, speaking out what you plan on doing. My first weekend sober, I actually filled it up quite a bit, and I might have overdone it a little bit, but, that's just how I operate. I'm working on it, but, I plan things in the morning, and I plan things that I wanted to do, that I enjoy, but also that things that I would do or that I couldn't do hungover. So that helped me kind of, get me in the mindset of not wanting to drink. So Friday, I just had a nice, calm evening with my wife. I told her, I was like, hey, look, I just want to try to take it easy this weekend. Maybe Friday, let's cook some dinner, let's stay in, we could watch a movie, just, hang out, do nothing. I'm totally fine with doing nothing too. So we ended up cooking a nice dinner. She was making the sides. I think we had some sort of vegetables, some rice, and then I was in the backyard grilling some ribeye steaks. Had a nice dinner. We ended up watching a movie and going to bed pretty early. Next morning, I get up pretty early, and I quit in June, so it was super hot in Sacramento. And I love going to the river and taking our dog, and it's just super nice. It's super quiet at the spot I go to. I'm out in nature. It's hot, but the river's pretty cold. I like to go swimming, play fetch with my dog, and just, I don't have my phone with me, and I can really just relax, calm my mind down, and, kind of reconnect with myself. So I was there for a few hours, came home, had some lunch, just kind of relaxed, for a few hours. Then I took a nap, and it was super nice. Later on in that evening, again, my wife and I, we just kind of relaxed. We made another nice dinner. There were some UFC fights on that night, and I enjoy watching UFC, and my wife has come to enjoy it as well. So we watch it together, and again, I went to bed early, and that's because the next day, on Sunday, I was gonna go ride motocross, and that's kind of, that's one of my biggest passions. And I also saw it as a reward. That's why I put it on the activity on Sunday, And again, I'm outdoors, and it's a physical activity, so there's no way that I wanted to do that hungover, and nor should I, because it's dangerous enough sober. You don't want to make it worse by being hungover from the night before. So that kind of gives you an idea of what my first sober weekend was like. And then you can also, if you have cravings, which you're probably going to have, you can stock up on alternative drinks. I'm not really big into the non-alcoholic drinks, especially the non-alcoholic beers. I've had a few, and honestly, they don't really do anything for me. Like, not that I didn't like the taste of beer, but if it's not going to get me drunk or get me buzzed, like, I don't really see the point in drinking it. So, not my thing. Honestly, I just like water. Good, cold, crisp, clean water. That's my jam. But if you do like the taste of beer, or if you like the taste of, the sweet alcoholic drinks, the Trulies, the hard seltzers, whatever, not really my thing. The sweet drinks never really appealed to me. I feel like every time I drank sweet drinks, it would make my hangover even worse. But I will say I've never had, what are they called? I don't know. It's one of the hard seltzers, but I had some non-alcoholic ones at a Christmas party last year, and they were actually pretty good. I do like the carbonation and the kind of sweetness, but when I was drinking, I think they're only like 4%, and I don't know, I have to drink like 80 of those things to get where I wanted to be. I was more of like 8-9% IPAs. I'm all about efficiency, so the less I have to drink and the drunker I can get, that's where I like to be. But if you do like the taste, those are definitely some alternatives when you do get those cravings. Something to help. Now, you could also, it helps to avoid your triggers, right? So the people, the places, the things that you usually used to do when you were drinking, just avoid those places altogether. And I struggled with this. This is a big mistake I made because I was winging it. I didn't have a plan. And I would try to live my same life, but without alcohol. So I was hanging out with the same people. I was still going over to friends' houses to watch the game, which was really just an excuse to get hammered. Or meeting up with friends downtown, at a bar, at a restaurant, and it just makes it so much harder. And you'll actually be pleasantly surprised on how much easier it makes not drinking when you don't put yourself in those situations. Next, and this is super helpful, at least it was for me, is to plan a reward for Sunday. As I mentioned earlier, motocross is kind of my reward, but like plan something late afternoon or in the evening for Sunday and reward yourself for the work you did this weekend. Celebrate that win. It's, as you know, it's not easy to go through the weekend without drinking, because usually the weekends are for what? They're for drinking. They're for forgetting about the week you had at work or whatever, and you just want to party. So celebrate the effort you put in. Celebrate the win. Sometimes my wife and I would go out. We love sushi. We don't really eat out that much because for us it's kind of hard to eat healthy when you eat out, but we do love sushi, and that's one of the only things that we eat that we've never tried to make it. I'm sure we could, but it's nice to just go out, enjoy a nice meal, reflect on the weekend, and just celebrate what you just accomplished. Your first sober weekend. That's a big thing. It might only be a few days, but for me, getting through the weekend without drinking was great, because Monday I could start fresh, and usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like I'm not looking for a drink, and that's because it's the beginning of the week, but mainly it's because I was so hungover from the weekend before because I just went way too hard that I like swore off alcohol. But when the weekend crept up, it was always like, uh-oh, here we go again. And another thing that you could do to help plan your weekend is plan like an escape, or plan what's going to happen when those awkward moments and those cravings do pop up. You know, you're at a friend's house and you're like, okay, I kind of want to have a drink. What are you going to do? How are you going to get out of that? A lot of times I'd go to the bathroom and just kind of regroup, take a few breaths, you know, refocus on like what I'm trying to accomplish. Maybe give myself a little pep talk in the mirror and see where I go from there. Do I leave? Do I stay for a little bit longer? It's kind of like halftime of a game, right? You play the first half, and then at halftime, you kind of evaluate how the first half went, the adjustments that you want to make, and then you go out and play the second half. And that's kind of how I use that. Also, if you're in the moment and you're just ready to go, and you know, you're hanging out with friends, and you know, you don't want to be kind of awkward or be that guy and just take off, you know, just bounce, which I did. I would just disappear and whatever. I was okay with it. But you know, a little hack, pull out your phone, start looking through your phone, or pull out your keys, and people will kind of take the hint like, okay, well, you know, maybe he's getting ready to go. They might even ask, oh, are you taking off? Like, yeah, I got some things I got to take care of. Or I would always, no matter what time it was, you know, if it was 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., didn't matter. Like, you know, it's past my bedtime. And obviously, I'm not going to go to bed at 4 p.m., but, you know, sometimes I did go to bed pretty early, and it was kind of like a joke. It kind of like eased the tension, and, you know, they understood. So, you know, your first weekend sober, it doesn't have to be tormenting. It doesn't have to be super hard. You know, as long as you follow these steps, it actually be pretty easy and enjoyable. You know, it's not about surviving the weekend. It's about thriving. It's about feeling good. It's about feeling accomplished. And, you know, if you'd like help, I've planned many sober weekends for myself and for others. And as a sobriety coach, I can help you. I got your back. I can help you out step by step. So I'll leave a link in the description. If you want to book a free discovery call, the info's there. I want to thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you guys checking out this video. Please comment below what your plan is this weekend. You know, what are you going to do instead of drinking? I'd love to cheer you guys on. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time.